Well, let's make it personal. You know, that's what we do in Vermont so well. I said in the invitation, our legislators are the folks that are working hard for us in Montpelier. And so knowing the people that represent us is really important. We're all Vermonters. We do things the Vermont way. And I'm really appreciative of all the hard work that our folks do, especially this year. It's made all the difference. Where shall we start? How about Diane? I know you're having a hair appointment come up soon, so I'll embarrass you. How's that? Do you want to introduce yourself?
I cannot be seen, but I can be heard. I'm Carol's sidekick over at the chamber, so I try to help member services and communications. So if you can't find Carol, maybe you can track me down.
Yep, and Diane works like crazy. So the next person, I don't see your name, but it says Ingersoll.
Hi, it's Cindy Ingersoll. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Cindy.
Yeah, I have a little trouble with when my video's on. My speaker doesn't work too well, but plus I just, got out of the shower, and just to help Diane out, got out of the shower just to loosen up from all the shoveling yesterday. Carol, I don't think we've ever met, but I'm Lauren Ingersoll's mother.
Oh, nice. Yes.
And I work for the Southern Windsor County Regional Planning Commission. By the way, we're changing our name effective January 1st, which will be Mount Ascutney Regional Commission. And
much better.
Yes, thank you.
Much shorter.
Shorter, yes. And Cindy, what do you do there? Of course, we love the RPC. What do you do there?
Well, my title is Community Development Specialist, but I dabble in a number of things. But I head up the Brownfields program. I work with the Clean Water Initiative for the state, and I do hazard mitigation planning for our towns. Those are my three major
Those are huge jobs. I was on the RPC for quite a long time, was incoming chair before I got the job in Okemo Valley, but glad you could join in, and I love that daughter of yours. Lauren does an amazing job with the town of Chester, helping out with social media and some other marketing initiatives. Smart girl. And anyway, she's just helping Julie get the messaging just right. So thank you so much for that, for being here. Also, Susanna, my dear Susanna, how are you this morning?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Carol. Thanks for organizing this.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. I know many of you, but I'm Susanna Gellard. I'm the Executive Artistic Director of Weston Playhouse Theater Company. I live in Landgrove, so the wrong county, but I work in Weston. So it's just great to see you all, and I'm very glad to be with you.
It all counts, Susanna. It does, and we know how important the arts are in our region, and and for keeping us sane. So thank you for just being such an important presence in our valley. Tom.
Me?
Tom, would you just introduce yourself and maybe a little bit about your background, which I happen to know.
Well, I'm Representative Tom Bock. I represent the towns of Chester, Andover, Baltimore, and part of North Springfield. I serve on the House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. This is I just got reelected to my third term.
Yay.
I'm also the current chair of the Ascutney Mountain Regional Commission.
Yes, fabulous. How about over to you, Dick?
Right.
Hi, I'm Dick McCormack, one of 3 state senators for the Windsor County District, which includes Londonderry and Mount Holly, as well as Windsor County, serving with Alison Clarkson and Alice Nitka. And I, too, am delighted to have been reelected. This COVID thing has been a tsunami, and times are hard. And when times are hard, people get angry, and they tend to get angry at the people in power. So I went into this election somewhat apprehensive. And I got to say, I'm blown away by how understanding people are. That as bad as it is, that we're doing the best we can.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hope you guys have not been beat up, because I think you're doing an amazing job, just an amazing
Thanks.
job. It's hard work. My ears hear a lot of appreciation right now. So
That's what I hear too, and we appreciate it.
yeah, excellent. Allison.
Good morning. Thank you, Carol and Diane, for putting this together. I'm Alison Clarkson. I live in Woodstock, and with Dick and Alice, have the honor of representing Windsor District in the Senate. And I serve as Vice Chair of Senate Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. And I also serve on government operations. So was very involved in a lot of the pivoting to the needs in Vermont, which ranged, as we know, from mail-in balloting to direct grants to our hurting businesses, particularly the hospitality sector, which is well represented in your chamber. I have just been elected as Majority Leader of the Senate.
Yeah, congratulations. I just think the state, and you guys in particular, are such strong leadership for us. You've done an amazing job. I'll keep saying that throughout. I know there's been hard decisions to make, and you try to keep it equitable, and we appreciate that very much. Alice.
I'm Alice Nitka at Ludlow, and as Allison and Dick said, I represent with them the County District, which includes Mount Holly and Londonderry. And I am the Vice Chair of the Judiciary Committee and the Vice Chair of the Appropriations Committee. And I was just also glad to be.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here. And I see that we have the big cheese from the Mount Ascutney Commission on Zoom today. Good morning, Tom.
Oh, that beard is getting bigger and bigger. Look at that beard.
Want to introduce yourself, please? Who the heck are you, Tom?
Hi, I'm Tom Kennedy. I'm the Executive Director of the Southern Windsor County Regional Planning Commission, soon to be called the Mount Ascutney Regional Commission. And I am following Senator McCormack in my beard growth.
Competition. And Mary, I think it's Mary Smith. Mary, you want to introduce yourself? Any chance we can see your delightful face?
You won't see my face, but I'm Mary Smith, Smith Maple Crest Farm. We are a truly Vermont farm. We make maple syrup, grow grass-fed beef, and have lots of questions.
Excellent.
And also member of the month this month.
Oh, yay.
Hooray. So we're really fortunate. Everybody gets a lot of love today. Make sure you ask your questions. And I would turn it over to our legislators to no particular format. So you
I think we just missed one of our guests, Julie.
Nope, actually, oh, Julie, did I miss you, Julie?
She did.
Oh, Julie, I'm so sorry.
Everybody knows who I am. It's okay. I'm Julie. I'm the town manager in Chester.
You are all of how many months on the job now?
As town manager, 9. But I've worked for the town for 16 years.
And you just rolled right into the position, smooth as silk. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we've had the opportunity to work with Julie in the town a little bit on your marketing efforts and on a regional marketing plan. So that's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So Alice, Dick, how do you want to start this? We can go in alphabetical order or just talk about what's most noteworthy maybe in your mind over the last year and what you see coming up.
Sure.
Well, and also maybe we can just, given how short a time we have together, maybe we just dive into questions, because I think people know that we've pivoted completely to COVID response as of March 13th. And so I think people are pretty clear on what our priorities were for our session 2020. And while we got lots of other things done as well, our primary focus was responding and relieving the lives of Vermonters and appropriating the $1.25 billion the feds sent our way. So, unless Alice and Dick think, I think just given our time, it would make sense to respond to questions, don't you think?
That's good. I think we ought to say a couple of positive things that are going on. Vermont received the second highest amount per capita in the country after Washington, D.C. And from the federal government, part of that is because there are minimums required to go to small states. Some of our funds are in good shape right now. They won't be as things go on here. But we do have the second lowest unemployment rate in the country after Nebraska. And one of the things that has made a difference from that is hard for people is we aren't getting the additional unemployment insurance because of that, because our unemployment rate is so low. So we didn't get that extra bonus. Now there's more money coming, so we'll see exactly where that goes. But those are just a couple of things.
That's great. Positives. I appreciate that.
I do want to note that a lot of the statistics we're dealing with are sort of looking at the state as a whole overall.
Sure.
In fact, the impact has been felt very unevenly. I mean, my hardware store guy told me he's actually cleaning up on this and feels very guilty about it. He said, I didn't do it, but the fact is, my income has improved. I would say that, I mean, we've got jobs. We're sort of breaking even. My income is down a little, but I can manage that. And then we got people who have just been hammered.
Yes.
And they've really been hammered. And I think one of the things we're going to have to pay a lot of attention to, and of course with Allison on economic development and Allison and I both serve on appropriations, is identifying the people who are, some people in extreme need. I mean, I'm hearing from constituents now, I'm sure everyone else is, that, who are on the brink of eviction, on the brink of foreclosure, and businesses saying that they're not exaggerating. They're in danger of closing their doors forever. So that's what we've got to look at. The other thing is when we say that we're doing better than expected, that's better than the revised expectations. We're not doing better than we were expecting a year ago. We're doing better than we were expecting after we lowered our expectations. So things are not as bad as we feared they would be, which is not exactly good news.
And I think the other thing that we have been, there are silver linings. I mean, there are so many tough aspects of this pandemic that we're still working through, and particular hammering in the hospitality sector, as we know. But we have learned so many good lessons about how to make government and business more efficient and resilient. And I think turning to some of those, everything from telemedicine to mail-in balloting to house inspections and land records, the push to get land records finally digitized, which has dragged on for ages, decades. There are so many good kicks in the pants and sort of jump-starting things that we might have taken forever to do, that now, because of COVID and we've had to do them overnight, oh, wow, we can actually do this. And so that's I think, very encouraging for the future as we go into this session. And I think we'll be codifying some of those lessons learned. And if you have lessons learned that you're interested in sharing and that you think have a relation to statute, please let us know, because I think we'll be looking at a lot of those in the next 2 years. Tom, did you have any thoughts?
Well, I just want to say that we'll pretty much echo what the senators have said. We spent a lot of time in the last session on COVID-related issues, and I think there's some good will come out of that. Although there was a lot of pain, we all know that, particularly in the hospitality industry. As we go forward, Dick's right. I think the tax receipts are better than everybody estimated, but they're still going to be down for 2021 and maybe beyond that. So we're going to have to look at some budget issues. We still don't know how much money is coming up from the Fed, so that's all up in the air. But I think we've got to be aware that tax receipts are going to be lower for at least the next 12 months, maybe longer. So that's going to be an issue in the legislature.
Okay, how about questions?
Carol, you're on mute.
I know, thank you. Tom, my question I have is that are there estimates for a shortfall that's being talked about, and how would it compare to the prior year? Any thoughts?
Well, the Commissioner of Taxes is talking about a greater than 10% reduction in receipts. It's still up there. They're going to come up with another report in January, another estimate, and we don't know exactly what it's going to be, except they already see the receipts aren't what they were a year and a half ago, for example. We were fortunate. We entered the COVID period in March and April. We were entered that period with quite a nice surplus. That is gone, and that is not being created now under current receipts. So we're going to have to buck up as soon as we know what the projections are going to be, and maybe have to make some cuts, or certainly I hope Allison is right in that we're more efficient and we'll be able to do more with less.
Yeah, that's great.
So we have two members of appropriations also with us. I think the gap that is being discussed that you just referenced in that question is about, what is it, Dick and Alice, 104 million that we're looking at currently? It may change.
We had thought we would be behind 140 million, but when we met with Tom Bock, the state economist, he says we're 175 million lower than expected for a normal year. We had a great year last year because there's very good income coming in that year, and we were able to have some reserves. So that we entered the pandemic in a better spot than many places. And of course, we continued to do okay because of all the federal money. Without that, we would have been in a lot of trouble.
So we have a new person joining us, Peter. Peter is on the call. So Peter is a new member. Peter, if you want to introduce yourself, please.
He's on mute.
Peter. Well, he's.
Peter, you're muted. If you're trying to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Well, Peter, introduce yourself if you should get this message. You need to unmute though. So I think consistently in this, we know with COVID, there have been winners and losers. And Peter's probably an example of how the state has benefited from the situation in that he decided to make Okemo Valley his permanent residence. I hope you don't mind me sharing that, Peter. We've also seen a tremendous response for real estate, people buying real estate. And our restaurants and lodging has been on the other side of that equation. So let's, who has questions?
So I would just love to chime in. First of all, I just want to thank you all for, not just for being here today, but Weston Playhouse Theater Company was very fortunate not only to receive a PPP grant, but to be able to participate in the ACCD programs that I know the legislature was really key to making possible. And that funding that we received this year has allowed us to look ahead rather than spending this year worrying about an existential crisis in the present. We're able to focus on the future. Of course, my concern is that we are still looking at a couple of challenges, including the likelihood of not being able to open at the earliest until July of next year, which is about a month and a half later than usual. We're expecting that when we open, assuming we are on course to open, we're going to be playing to significantly diminished audiences. So, we usually sell about 20,000 tickets a year, and we're looking at that being down to below 10,000. So we're looking at something like a 65% reduction. That's both because of COVID safety protocols and because we expect that audience interest will be diminished until the vaccine is in full circulation. And Fauci was quoted the other day as saying that he doesn't expect theaters to be up and running until 2022. So we're really looking at next year as a kind of, a way of sustaining ourselves so that in 2022 we can return at full force. The issue for us is that this isn't just about my theater company. It really is about the impact on the region. Without those 20,000 ticket holders coming not just to Weston, but to the greater area, the restaurants, the inns, the stores will continue to feel that diminishment of interest. So my question really is, what can the creative sector do in the coming year to help continue the great work that you've all been able to do in terms of advocating for us as an economic driver in the region? How can we help you sort of tell our story?
Susanna, are you working? The Arts Council's asking these questions, so I'm and the creative sector groups, and I know Annie in Rochester, I think, runs our areas. I can't remember the catchy title for the latest effort in the creative economy.
Right. There's the Southern Vermont creative sector, which is I am a part of that. Yeah.
And I've gone to a bunch of their meetings. It strikes me that is the group that needs to answer that question. That's a challenging question, which is in the wake of another year possibly of no theater and many other things. Arts openings, art engagement, and I'm impressed by how the arts community actually has shifted to a huge amount of online. I mean, it's astonishing. The Met is still running a different opera every night. I mean, obviously, circa, but so many. I just heard on VPR this morning that the whole New Year's effort. There's a whole Vermont online New Year's celebration that's being Highlight Vermont, I think it's called, something like that. So I think the creative sector is doing exactly what it does really well, which is being incredibly creative about how it makes money out of it is a good question, I think, and one of the biggest challenges.
And I would also say that it is, Weston itself, we increased our online audience by tens of thousands. We created online content that was recognized and reviewed very favorably in the New York Times. Right. So we've had exceptional success with that, but that doesn't actually help the Vermont sector. And Alison, I really appreciate, the Southern Vermont creative sector, which is run by Robert McBride, is doing this work incredibly well. We do have a little bit of a circular conversation going on because we are trying to tell our story, but then we do hear that when we talk about restaurants and inns as the best example, we tend to kind of leave out the creative sector as a part of that whole. So that's why I'm asking the question, just if, and it doesn't have to be answered today, but
we don't view it as left out. We view it as
no, absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm not, this is why in a way I'm speaking to this group is just how can, as you're talking to your peers and to others in the state, where are the moments where we, the creative sector, are missing the boat and not just getting our story out, but how we're telling it. And as I said, I don't necessarily expect an answer to that today, but if there are moments where you think, why wasn't the Weston Playhouse in here telling its story? It would be really helpful to know that.
I think telling your story is so important. That's the case with anyone who's in trouble right now. They need to tell their story, but in particular with the arts, because when there's not enough money, legislators start looking for, what are the absolute necessities and where is there some wiggle room? And the arts have always been a kind of a stepchild on the economy. I made my living as a performer for many years before politics. And I can't tell you how many times someone would come up to me at a gig and say, gee, that was a wonderful performance. Do you have a real job? you know, and not even thinking of it as an insult. You know, it was said as a compliment. So telling your story of just the importance of the arts and getting people, but they also understand we are going to feed hungry children before we take care of you. I mean, there it is.
Well,
And I don't suppose you would want it any other way.
Oh, no, absolutely,
So,
right.
So
right.
there is, you are, but you know, you are working at a bit of a disadvantage, frankly, and I say that as part of the club.
so
I'm
you
so
know,
grateful.
I think
It occurred to me to not run this time. It had occurred to me to not run this time, to finish my last years going back into my performing career, to wrap it up with that. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I'd be out of work.
Yeah.
But Susanna, I think the measure of how the legislature has heard how important the arts are to our downtowns and village centers and to our economy, it was measured by the grants that we funneled directly to the arts sector, administered by the Arts Council. You know, we set aside a whole bucket of money just earmarked for the arts. Was, I think, representative of how well you've told your story and how clear it is for anybody in economic development that the arts are completely tied to the health of our downtowns and village centers.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. And that the Vermont Arts Council and the work that you've all done with them is just incredible, and it's deeply, deeply appreciated. Yeah.
I just want to add, Suzanne, your particular situation, I think, is unique. You've got a deep reservoir of loyal patrons. I know I'm one of them. We've been season ticket holders for 30 years. And I think reaching out to those people and providing entertainment to that reservoir of loyal patrons is something you could look at. You're fortunate in that way.
Indeed. Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Yeah.
You know, I would just make this important comment, or I think it's important, is that the arts are a sector, and they're also, and I don't know what the word is, it's horizontal to everything else we do. You know, when you talk about the hearts of people in little ways and in big ways, and you know, a suggestion or a thought I have is that the arts are also could be seen as a way to strengthen other sectors of the economy, like restaurants and hospitalities, through some creativity. Yeah, and Tom Kennedy, I don't know if you would want to comment on the SEDS work that goes on in the region with ECVT, is that what it's called? Or 3, did I get that right?
Yes.
So that's another.
I think for this conversation, and it's my understanding it's going to be a priority of the legislature, is we're doing work on broadband, and we're looking at underserved populations as far as not having good connectivity. We're working with Matt Dunn's group, the Council on Rural Innovation, and they've done some great mapping. And so what we find in sort of southern Windsor County is actually we have pretty good coverage in many areas, but we have a lot of pockets of 10 to 20 homes that don't have any connectivity. And so we're trying to figure out, A, is whether these folks want it, B, what can they afford, and then how can we provide a low-cost way of providing them access in the interim time. And it could be things like, I guess they have like almost like antennas now, you can create sort of a local hotspot and the like. So that right now is probably as far as the Regional Planning Commission is concerned, is one of our major efforts. The other major effort is working with the hospitals on food security. And so especially with Springfield Hospital and with Mount Scottney Hospital. So we're doing a lot of work on that. So those are the two big areas that we've been doing work as far as our, what we call SEDS, related things, which is our comprehensive economic development plan.
And Tom, how about the creative economy aspect as well?
Yeah, so Peter Gregory at Two Rivers is doing more of that than I am, and so is Bob Haynes from Green Mountain Economic Development. So
Okay.
I'm not that comfortable talking about that. They know more specifics than I do. I know we're doing work in those areas, but our focus has really been more on broadband and health security than the creative economy.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Susanna, if you have an interest in finding out about the other creative economy initiative like Southern Vermont, I'm happy to connect the dots on that.
No, I totally appreciate that, Carol. Thank you. I am tied into those groups. I'm almost here sort of as a, well, I'm here because I'm really interested to hear all of you and to meet with all of you, but also just to sort of, hear from your point of view where we're heading in the future. But no, I totally appreciate that. Thank you, Carol.
Sure thing. Sure thing. Tom, did you have more to say?
So I was a little bit late in getting on. I didn't know if the legislators talked about what the priorities are for this upcoming session. And I'm curious as to where we are on the housing bill that didn't get through, also Act 250, some of those things. I know COVID will be big. But if you could sort of briefly just let us know where your folks are at.
Well, I think we're all focused, particularly the Senate Democratic caucus is really focused on building back better together. So, I mean, that's going to be the theme of pretty much almost all we do. And the immediate priority is, of course, our continued COVID-19 response. So we're waiting on pins and needles to find out what the Fed's finally Fed action will produce for us. I think that we're, and all three of the rest of my colleagues can speak, but we're definitely focused on applying our lessons learned. Yes, we're going to do a housing bill. Obviously, housing is one of those lessons learned that we already knew, many of us, how important housing was. I think we now are so clear that public health is economic health, and housing is an incredibly important piece of that, as is food security. And but we're also obviously looking at economic security and resiliency, and equity and justice. And I think a lot of the work will fall in those areas. But obviously, after the primary COVID response work, in which housing will obviously fit, I know that we're going to be floating a new housing bond. And Dick can speak to Act 250 because Dick was on the commission, but obviously more work is going to be done on that.
Well, I guess if you handed it to me, the Act 250 bill last year was pretty ambitious. It was a big bill that what actually passed was very whittled down to just a few bare essentials. So all the other issues that in the larger bill will be brought up again and considered. My particular interest is in downtown development. If we want to keep our green countryside open and green, we got to put the development somewhere, and downtown is where it belongs. And so you've got to expedite that. How to expedite downtown development is a debatable point. That'll be going on. But housing, I mean, Act 250 speaks to housing. It speaks to, as well as to the specifically environmental issues. I think that we divide the COVID issue into, first of all, there's the health issue. And I think one of the main things we're going to have to do now is, with the light at the end of the tunnel, we don't want people to get sloppy, for people to start relaxing the hygiene too soon. And there's going to be a temptation to do that. I hear people saying, well, it's going to be easier. It's not going to be easier for a while. And we're going to have to get that across. But there's also the economic tsunami from COVID. And so much of that depends on the feds. And we have, I guess we have something coming, which is good. It would have been total disaster if we didn't. President-elect Biden has been very clear. He regards this as a first step. And there'll be hopefully more money coming later. That also depends on the Georgia elections, I guess. But however things turn out, there'll probably be something more coming from Washington. One hopes anyway. Alice, you want to have thoughts?
I think I agree that in all the discussions we've had that the COVID, all the things related to COVID are what we're going to work on at first. I mean, it has been discussed continuing with, as Dick says, Act 250. There are a lot of things that were on the table last year that didn't make it to the finish line. I mean, Act 250 in a piece did. And there were a lot of problems going on there. It needed more work. And there was, as we moved into stuff related to COVID, forget all that other stuff that could wait. So I think that's the same approach that's going to go on this year. I mean, people will have their pet bills that they'll put in, but how soon they get worked on is going to be a while till we try and some of this other stuff still. So is there anything in particular that people are thinking about that they are wondering where that's at? I mean, you mentioned the Act 250 and I can't remember what the other one was you mentioned.
The housing bill.
Yeah,
the housing bond is
definitely needing work. And I mean, one of the concerns with that is I'm told by all my local builders that the price of lumber has doubled and tripled in some places. So it's not going to be able to do the same things they did with the same amount of money. So that's certainly a concern.
Yeah, I want to add just a little when the comment that everything is sort of on the back burner out of deference to COVID and bouncing back. Of those things on the back burner, the ones that are maybe a little bit more to the front there are several pieces of legislation that were doing fine last March that seemed to be on their way to likely passage that then just got put away because of COVID. And so I know on health and welfare, for example, on which I serve, we had bills pertaining to school hygiene, pertaining to various contaminations, to PFAS, a very noxious, toxic chemical that needs to be dealt with. Perhaps Paul can say something about that if you do cleanups. We got some. And those are things that maybe will be, if we have time, we'll try to bring them up. And I think they'll probably be first online ahead of new bills because there were things that really were on their way to passage. And it's not like they were rejected. Just something else happened.
Mary Smith has a question. Mary?
Hi, guys. Sorry about that. I do want to say thank you for being at this forum. I did miss the agricultural one. So, shocker. My concern is with the fact that agriculture is going to be increasingly difficult to survive in. I believe that this is not the time to do our Green Deal because farms run on equipment. I feel that with this COVID crisis, information is not being able to be disseminated. Representatives are not necessarily reachable. The bill was passed in July, and we talk about access to food. Who is going to grow the food? Who is going to be able to manage the livestock? Whether you agree that cows are good animals or not, who is going to be able to manage animals without equipment? Mm-hmm. And no farmer is going to be able to retrofit all their equipment. That's number one. I feel that that we do maple syrup. You're not going to be able to wood fire. You're not going to be able to oil fire. Eventually, you're not going to be able to propane fire. How are you going to keep the jewel of Vermont going? I don't know of anybody that has an electric evaporator that is going to produce the product that we so cherish. everybody else cherishes, and it really provides a huge income for the state.
So Mary Smith owns Smith Maple Crest Farm with her husband, Jeff. They produce beef and maple as their primary products, in case you didn't know.
And they're members of the month.
And they're
yes.
members of the month. Yes.
And we are very opinionated.
Yeah.
Hi there, Dick.
I do want to say that the way your character, Mary, the way you're, and first of all, great respect for people who are able to continue agriculture in Vermont under the present circumstances. But you're describing the climate bill in ways that are very unfamiliar to me. You're describing several provisions that I don't think are actually in the bill. And what is happening is I get a lot of constituent input, and there is terrible misinformation out there. What is happening is that we're exploring all the possible ways of doing something about global warming, and exploring meaning maybe yes, maybe no, and then we would get to know if this or that provision creates unacceptable problems for people. We have to make this work for people. But also the discussion really has to be in the context of global warming. I don't know how you're going to run a maple operation if Vermont gets much warmer.
Right.
So we have to take global warming very, very seriously. And I often, certainly during the last election, occasionally we'd hear from people where the idea is as though we were considering carbon pricing in a vacuum. Just for some reason, someone thought up this crazy idea of a carbon tax. Well, first of all, taxing carbon, it's an old tradition. It goes back to the ancient Greeks. We usually tax stuff we don't like. And we usually try to
but not
reward stuff
everybody
we do like.
doesn't.
And so, I'm sorry?
Not everybody likes the same thing or understands. Now, for instance, a vegetable grower, they have machines that put carbon into the air in their greenhouses. So, everything is, this doesn't have to be a discussion on the specifics, but I feel that in this time where running a business is difficult, I do not want to look to the government just to provide money. I think that businesses need to be able to do what businesses do best and think outside the box. They do. But I feel that while we feel that all these Zoom meetings are wonderful, the information isn't getting out. I don't know one representative that called us and asked any of our opinions. Our beef producer rep had no way to really communicate or didn't realize that bills were going through. I feel that COVID has been a cloak over a lot of things that have been going on. And we don't have a full-time person to chase free money. It just, I feel that is what COVID has done is in a lot of ways, the businesses that need help are focusing on trying to get grants and trying to get this and trying to get that. And they're not able to think outside the box. And we don't have the ability to do what we do best, which is produce our products, satisfy our customers, and pay our taxes,
So, Mary, I think we appreciate that the conversation as we go into the Global Warming Solutions Act and implement it is a balanced one. I think many of us know that there will be no syrup production in 50 years if global warming continues. So I think many of us are very concerned about the future of your business, and to that end, want to balance ways to mitigate the disastrous impacts on maple. And on the same so we're obviously going to have to balance all aspects of that in order to help you thrive, but also not help you go under. And I think we're all pretty, everyone's sensitive to that. I mean, cows also produce it turns out cows produce a huge amount of carbon by the way they fart, but by the way they burp. Who knew that was going to be as big a carbon contributor as it turns out to be. So two of our most iconic industries, ag is absolutely one of our most iconic industries, but also one of the most threatened by climate warming. And so I think it will be a balanced conversation. And, as it goes forward, the Climate Council is having their first meeting this Monday. It will be very interesting. It will be very interesting to watch as that evolves. I would say that Zoom has its pluses and minuses. One of the pluses we hear is that more people are able to participate because they don't have to drive to Montpelier and take all the time, that they can ask their state reps to be witnesses. We're only a phone call away. All legislators live in communities where our phone numbers are in the phone book and our emails are published on the legislative website. We are happy to be in dialogue on almost anything. And I think you're right. Zoom has a plus and minus, but we have found actually more and more people are engaging by Zoom than ever before.
So where is it listed that people can participate? And where is the schedule?
It's on the legislative website, which is legislature, I can't remember, .gov, .vt, Vermont. Anyway, you can Google it, Vermont Legislature.
Yeah,
and on there,
Vermont.
it has, in each committee, it has a live stream when that committee is meeting. And you can just click on the live stream and you can watch what's happening. If you want to participate and be a witness, you have to ask that committee and that committee chair to be a witness on a certain subject. And you generally tend to do that through your senators or through your representative because they will know better what your area of expertise is to promote you as a witness for that chair of that committee.
So Mary, right now, we're not in session. We won't be until January. And that's when you'd be able to see the schedule of every committee, the agriculture committees in the House and Senate, if that was the area.
Right.
Well, I
Starting.
surely will be looking for that, but I also think that this is something that should be publicized so that other people can participate, because I think that we all have points of view that will help to refine it, as Representative McCormack said, and I think it would be well served.
So Mary, it's legislature.vermont.gov is the Vermont
perfect.
legislative website. Legislature.vermont.gov.
And are there particular committees or a committee that Mary should keep an eye on?
Agriculture, of course.
Agriculture, House and Senate.
And if the context is global warming, then the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee.
Right.
And the House Natural Resources Committee.
And the House Energy Committee, both.
That's right. This is a different committee.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, perfect.
I'll follow up with you, Mary, and just get you connected. I'm glad that the agriculture sector is represented today. I love, honestly, how Vermont struggles with really important points like global warming and farming. Both really important to us. So the conversations just are really critical. We're closing in. We have 6 minutes left. Are there other questions?
I just wanted to add one other thing for Mary. There's power in numbers, and it helps if you have a concern, to join with other people of similar concerns. In this case, the Farm Bureau, and I got to tell you, the Farm Bureau does not make our lives easy. All right, the Farm Bureau advocates aggressively for Vermont agriculture. So you might want to contact the Farm Bureau. That's not
Okay,
a government
perfect.
agency. That's a citizens organization.
I know that.
And the group, and Mary, the group that organized State House to Farmhouse, that was a great event and so well managed. So it's rural Vermont and the Farm Bureau and the Vital Communities and all, a whole host of organizations that are very engaged with both these issues, the Global Warming Solutions Act and agriculture and the survival of agriculture.
Okay. Well, I sure thank you for your input and your help.
And Mary, I'll help you too, just to stay connected. I get that with our businesses. A lot of times your head is down and you're working really hard. Like you said, what you do best. And it really, our democracy requires that we somehow make a little bit of time to be active, not just for our own selves, but just because that's the way it should go. So let's talk more about that. Any other questions? Dick, did you have a question or still comment?
No.
No, thank you, everybody. So other questions? Peter, Cindy, anybody else? I would make a plug, if you don't mind. I'll shamelessly plug that, of course, I'm a fan of downtown organizations. I was with a downtown organization for 8 years and know that that really is the heartbeat of a community in many respects. Interestingly enough, in Okemo Valley, we have 10 village centers. Chester being an example of that, Weston is another. Londonderry has 2, Perkinsville, Mount Holly, and so on. The difference with village centers is that they still represent the heart of the community. They're just without staff, right? So the benefits are a little bit lower than downtown organizations. As an example, and we have 10 village centers. So there was a regional marketing initiative that came up recently, and we partnered with our village centers to help them carry out the regional marketing effort in a way that each town could participate on its own. And, I'm always supportive of that. But when we can lend a hand and carry out the wishes of the local community, that feels pretty good too. So that would be my 2 cents, just to say we have no downtown organizations in Okemo Valley. We have village centers, and I hope that those count for a lot too. They're unstaffed, without paid staff. We have the towns. They have volunteers often, and I think it's a really important aspect to how we support our state kind of going forward. So I think that's it for today. I appreciate everybody being here. I love those tough discussions. Happy holidays, and if I can be helpful, please let me know. Happy to, and thanks for our leadership in Montpelier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. This was
Bye-bye.
great.
It was great. I agree. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thanks.